I am so excited because today we are going to be talking about career tips. So these are just a few things that I learned probably in, I would say, the first 3 years of transitioning from being a makeup artist to working in an office and in broadcasting. And this would probably be good for someone who's just starting out or doing a transition, from one career path to another like I did. And I think that sometimes we might get in our own way a little bit. I know I certainly did, feeling like maybe a fish out of water in a totally new environment. So these are just a few things that I learned along the way that if I had known them at the time when I was starting, it would have made it a little bit easier. I see a lot of job descriptions where it's like the list of duties that are gonna come up in your job is just like a page long, and then it says 5+ years of experience required, and maybe you can do most of the things on that massive list that they've posted and you have 3 years of experience. Just apply for the job, because number one, the worst thing that can happen is that they're not going to call you or they're not going to email you and you're just not going to get it. And you won't get it anyway if you don't apply for it. But also, your name is going to be in the mix, if you do apply for that job. They're going to have your CV or your resume, and they're going to maybe call you later on for another position. Or maybe they have a job opening that you would be better qualified for, and a recruiter or, a hiring manager might call you for that. I see a lot of my colleagues or former colleagues and friends who are women, and they won't go for a job that they're clearly qualified for, myself included. I've just not applied for jobs that I wanted because I didn't think that I had enough experience. And then I'll show it to a friend and they're like, you could absolutely do that, So just apply. And then your name at least will be in the company and they can call on you if they want to. Saying yes, I know a lot of people say this, it sounds really obvious, but it's so difficult to do. It's so difficult to say yes to things. What I'm talking about is, being in a certain position. Like for me, I was a news apprentice first, and then I was asked to do a story, in 24 hours, okay? It's really difficult to do that. I luckily had already known how to cut audio because I taught myself how to do that in college. I did my research on this woman that I had to interview. She was a dancer. She was phenomenal, and I learned how to use equipment the day that I interviewed her. And I came back and I cut all of the audio together and an entire story, and I just figured it out. Not every single task is going to be that extreme, but I just said yes to this opportunity of reporting on a story because I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to be able to do stories and be on air and talk to interesting people and do that kind of field work. And I knew that if I said no at that moment, that they may never ask me again because I didn't want to take the chance, or I didn't feel comfortable. I did not feel comfortable in that moment, but when it was over, and it was a grueling process. I was at the office until 11 o'clock at night. But it really did pay off. And then I got to hear my story on air. I couldn't believe it. It was what I had wanted since I decided to go to college. So saying yes, it has so many benefits. You learn so many skills by saying yes. Skills that you thought, maybe you don't think you're ever going to use them. But later on down the line, the need for those skills come up, and you have them in your back pocket. And when you're first starting out, I encourage you to maybe say yes. If you've said no to everything, then say yes to half the things, or maybe say yes to 3 things, and just to kind of expand your repertoire and see what else you can do. Because now when people reach out to me for freelance work, They know that I can do a wide variety of things and start basically from the ground up on a show and give them a good product because I've said yes to so many different jobs. Also, take notes on what you are doing, you know, every project, every victory, everything that you're proud of. You know, make a Google Doc or, you know, find some place to write down all of your accomplishments from just saying yes that are outside the regular sphere of maybe what you're doing. Maybe you're taking on freelance work. Maybe you're working on a different project than you normally would, you know. Write that down and use it for when you want to have a promotion or when you want to get a new position, because those experiences and telling them to your future employer or your new manager are going to be priceless. I would say that this has some nuance to it. Let it drive you to a point, you know? I've had imposter syndrome, you know, when I first started working in an office. It was just very different because my background maybe wasn't the same as a lot of people who, you know, who I was working alongside. But I really honestly don't think that they cared. I mean, everyone is so busy. No one had really had time to worry about me as much as I was worried about myself. So, you know, but I had that imposter syndrome, and what that did was make me work super hard. It made me work incredibly hard. I was researching more than I had ever researched. I was doing everything from reading articles to documents to looking up words that I didn't understand. Like this, it was maddening. Like I was doing absolutely everything I could to be prepared when I was at work. And I think that if I could go back, I would still do that. I would let it drive me, but I wouldn't let it drive me as far as it did. I was working from the moment I got up to the moment I went to sleep, and I wasn't sleeping very much. I was driving a very long distance to get to the place where I was, you know, a news apprentice, and it was a lot. And when you're not getting sleep and you're just not feeling your best, it's hard to do your best work. But I was really prepared, and I was known as a hard worker. I was known as, I feel like I've been known as just someone who's very scrappy, who will do what it takes to get the job done. And that's because I had imposter syndrome. You don't have to have imposter syndrome to be good at your job, but if you do, let it help you prepare yourself. And then the more prepared you are, the less likely you will be to hear that voice in your head saying that you're a fraud, that you can't do it, that you don't fit in, because you're going to get comfortable. You're going to get comfortable, and that voice is going to float away. And maybe it'll come up sometimes, you know? Life is not always super, you know, steady or one way. You're not going to feel amazing every single day. But know that you can do the work, and that will help bolster you and give you confidence. So this one is for the introverts, meaning myself. And this is more of a statement than a tip, but something that I've learned is that charisma only goes so far in a work environment. You know, as someone who is an introvert, and I kind of stay outside of the game until I can kind of assess what is going on in a new work environment. I take time away to think about my tasks, and then I have to come back, and definitely not the loudest person in the room. But then there are people who are alphas, and they have all this charisma, and they're friends with everyone, and they're not afraid to say their ideas. And that it's great to be that way. But it becomes a problem when people rest on their charisma and there isn't a lot of substance behind it. And I have seen people who have no charisma whatsoever, and they are amazing at what they do. They don't have to be loud, because they can say one phrase and everyone in the room is just silent and listening and hanging on their words because they know what they're doing. I've seen that pay off. I've seen the work pay off. So if you're not a super charismatic person, then don't worry about it. Just do the work, and the work will speak for itself. And if for some reason the work doesn't speak for itself, that is not on you. That's on a company. And, you know, just take those skills that you're building up and all of the accomplishments that you're acquiring and see where else it might be able to lead you. You know, that's the good thing about working towards something. You know, maybe if hard work doesn't pay off in one place, it could pay off in another place or in another position in the future. So those are all of my tips. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helps. Give this video a like if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye.